I mean, is that guy smart or what? Alan, you do a phenomenal job every time you come. Great information. Really appreciate it. It's people were telling me in the back of the room, isn't it a bummer having to follow Alan at a presentation? You know, wouldn't it be the rotten position to be in? And I said, bummer, hell, he opened for me. So let's get this straight. So does a great job. Chris Stein, Jim McEachin, they do a wonderful job getting this program pulled together, along with their committees and help from Pat and Knox. I think you guys can tell they've done a super job pulling together speakers for this program. Right up until now, basically, I'm the fill-in person as essentially they ran out of money with their budget, and they said if you could just fill a spot up until Steve comes up here with those really good economic information, we'd really appreciate it. So I'm your fill-in guy. So I'll do the best I can to kind of amuse you for a little while, give you a couple things that I think are going to be interesting, a little bit off pace from some of the straight economic information, but a couple of key things that really will be driving your business ideas and things that are going to affect how you do business in the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. So we're going to walk through some of those, and hopefully you'll find this interesting. The things that we're going to talk about, the three key things that we see as important trends that are going to impact your business, and we'll talk a little bit how, are these three. And what we'll do is I'll try to define them a little bit from our perspective, and then give you some information as to why we think they're going to be impacting your business, and you really have to pay attention to them. And maybe give you some ways that you can try to leverage those ideas so it's useful information just as opposed to kind of nauseating dribble, which I'm going to try to avoid as best I can. So when we walk through these, let's start right at the top with reshoring. And this one is much talked about and often maligned. Is it really there? Is it not there? What is it? What isn't it? The fact of the matter is the expert of all experts on reshoring, I think is here somewhere. Harry Mosier, are you here? Harry Mosier is right there. You want to know anything about reshoring, you see that guy. ReShoreNow.org, Harry Mosier. Harry's been a dog on a bone when it comes to getting everybody to understand what's going on with reshoring. So he does a super job with that. And as a separate, oh, by the way, he's done a super job for the industry for the past 3, 4 decades, not only getting people understanding the importance of getting into apprenticeships and getting into our industry from a school standpoint to career standpoint, but also reshoring. That guy's been great for this industry. But let me give you reshoring from a bigger perspective. So I'll kind of just take it out to really fundamentally, what do I mean? I mean investments in the United States in manufacturing. Okay, so it could either be something that did happen to go to China or someplace else and is now coming back, or just people deciding it's a good place to do investments. We're always working on how do you make America the best place in the world to do manufacturing. So that's the fundamental. So working off that fundamental, the key things are, you want to come here because you've got good educational systems. You want to come here because of what we heard earlier today, things talking about labor. I'll get a little bit more into that. You want to avoid shipping issues. I mean, if your stuff's on a boat coming from the Pacific, having to get here, if you saw that new movie with Tom Hanks, Captain Phillips, I'd like to have your machines on that boat when you got to get them here in order to satisfy a customer. There's issues with supply chain, everything else. There's lots of reasons to make your stuff here. And so we'll start taking a look at that. Now, some of you guys that were at the presentation yesterday are going, hang on a second, I saw that chart. Well, we tried to throw you off a little bit. I changed the title, so it made it seem like it was Europe, but really it's something to do with Europe to see if you're paying attention. I stole this from Adrian yesterday. Now, all of you were sleeping and missed it. We did cover this yesterday, but I was in the back of the room, and I realized it was a really good slide to make my point, so I kind of disguised it a little bit and stuff it in here. The other way I thought I'd get away with it was Adrian speaks English. Queen's English, many of you probably didn't understand what he had to say, so I'll make the point that I wanted from his same slide in case you missed it. The only thing to really look at here, when it comes to cost of manufacturing, making stuff in the U.S., our labor costs, we're in a damn good position. And the position you just want to look at relative to is the position relative to China. And most of the time we talk about where things went to be offshored, they went to somewhere in Asia, mostly China. So the red line to where we're at with basically U.S. keeping ourselves flat, that's where you want to be. So why would you want to come here and make stuff in the United States? Quite frankly, we're quite productive and we don't have that labor inflation. We do see that might come, it's come up from the other economists that might happen, but the fact of the matter is we're also moving at an increasing rate with what we're doing with productivity, automation, which I'll talk about later, so that we can address some increased wage inflation, still be in a good position to address keeping relative to the other countries, U.S. being a good place to be doing business. Another key thing to look at, and if you're paying really close attention, I stole this one too. Once again, to disguise it, I changed the colors. This one used to be kind of blue in his. The main point here, again, just kind of getting to the main part of where I want to take it, is U.S. is in a position where we are producing more than we're consuming. We're importing less than the other guys we're competing against. That's a good position to be in. A relative term, we keep talking about the great things that are going on with shale. When you look at just the numbers for strictly the impact of the reduction in the cost of gas, natural gas to manufacturing, natural costs have gone down 36%. 36% for natural gas costs to manufacturers. That's led to an 11% reduction in overall energy costs to manufacturers. That's a really big deal. So we're in a really great position when it comes to energy. Another good reason why you want to be bringing your business here. So when you look overall at the United States, not only are we the biggest economy overall in the world, you heard that earlier, but if you just took manufacturing value add, that's the number there, 2.1 trillion. 2.1 trillion. So you're thinking about, where do I want to do business? Where do I want to set up my company? Again, if you don't want to deal with that shipping stuff, supply chain, time lag, you want to be where the market is. Where's the market? The market's there. If you just even take our stuff, manufacturing, what we do every day, 2.1 trillion, you'd be the 8th largest economy in the world just with what we do every day. That's why people want to be here. There's always a question of, is this stuff, this reshoring stuff, is it all baloney? What's going on? I mean, you've got to put all these things into context. There's no question that the momentum is there for this to be an ongoing, continuing part of what's going to be happening in manufacturing. Foreign direct investment, you got to pull that piece into the pie. So it's just not that stuff that somebody sent over to some place in the Far East and said, you know what, I think it would be easier to bring it back here and do it here. Is that going on? Absolutely. Harry will tell you all about it. But also look at the foreign direct investment numbers. That is tailing out at 2012 at $900 billion. $900 billion is the investment that people from other countries are deciding to set up their manufacturing facilities in the United States. That's a big deal. And for us, if we're supplying and taking care of and supporting them, that's something we're definitely going to be wanting to take advantage of. So really big ones. Who are they? Where's it going on? Apple. Apple talking about putting their first new plant in quite some time in the United States, in Texas, making the Mac. That's pretty impressive. Ford alone talking about $6.2 billion of investment in their manufacturing facilities in the United States. You look and say, wait a minute, that's not foreign direct investment. Now I'm talking about overall investment here. They could choose to put their plants anywhere, obviously. $6.2 billion is them betting on this is one of the best places in the world they can do manufacturing. Even with common platforms, where they're saying the platform could be the same platform for all their products worldwide, they're saying most of those investments are going to be happening here. Element Electronics deciding to get into flat panel screen manufacturing. Where? In the hub of flat panel screen manufacturing, Detroit. Okay, people are looking at where you take advantage of labor markets, logistics, here in the United States. A lot of the other ones up there, again, even Lenovo putting their first US plant into North Carolina, manufacturing their laptops. Consumer electronic products, PCs. So it is happening in the United States, and you can see plenty of that going on. Is it going to keep on going? Boston Consulting Group is looking at by 2020 that we're going to take back $70 to $115 billion by increasing our exports. Take it back means we're taking that market share from somebody. Because we're as productive as we are here, because that manufacturing is going on here, and we're going to increase our exports, we're grabbing that piece of the market back. And that's translating directly into jobs. From their perspective, Boston Consulting Group, 2.5 to 5 million additional jobs by 2020. 2020 used to seem like it was a long way away, but we're just about to 2014. It's not that far away. This stuff's going on now. So this piece, how do you leverage it? How do you take advantage of it? Again, from an AMT standpoint, you've got worldwide resources. We've got offices in China, in Brazil, in India, in Mexico, in Eastern Europe. Those people are there on the ground with information to not only help you find out who's about to be coming here, who's about to bring their manufacturing here, how do you get in the ground floor of all that investment, that $900 billion that's going on in overall investment over a period of time, how do you get in the ground floor of that? Those guys are there, they know what's going on. Or conversely, because you're more productive than some of the other people are because of the things you're taking advantage of, how do you take advantage of exporting your product there? They know where the opportunities are in their markets to help you get there and get there easily. Also, MT Insight. MT Insight, business intelligence tool that we're out there providing. If you haven't seen it, you can go out there and get some information. Kim and company, Steve and the guys are out there, walk you through it. As a business intelligence tool, either with sell your product, map your market, things that we're doing with MT News, you can get information on where are the investments happening, who's doing the investments, where are they going, what are some of the new technology that are looking at coming this way, and do they match things that you're doing? Quick, easy ways to align what you're doing relative to the opportunity. Okay, so that's the reshoring piece. Now, when I talk the reshoring, automation, big data, the three things I'm going to be talking about, they're all interconnected, and they all keep weaving around each other and spinning each other going forward. So when you get the reshoring thing and you're getting more of that coming here, part of what keeps it coming here is the fact that we're getting really, really good at the automation piece of the pie. Automation piece of the pie keeps us being a productive place and keeps that labor issue in check. And automation we see as one of the biggest growth areas in manufacturing technology. We think it will be again for quite some time. So a lot to pay attention to there. What are the drivers? What's really making that happen? Well, we keep on talking about, Alan talked about it, everybody keeps on talking about it. One of the big issues we have is we don't have enough skilled people. That's the BLS number for how many manufacturing positions we're short right now. 237,000, that's a lot of people that we're short. It's going to keep on driving the automation. The fact of the matter is you need automation to fill in for some of those positions that we don't actually have. And it's not really an issue of displacing those people. We'll talk a little more about it later. We need to actually have that in place so the people we have that do have some of the skills, we can put in the areas that we actually do need them. And so that is really one of the key things going forward, driving some of the things for automation. Also the need for data. People are realizing to make their companies the most productive companies anywhere, they really need to harness data. And what's a great place to get data? It's by linking in the automation. You've got automation that's loading and feeding a machine. It's talking angle, speed, torque, force. You don't know that when a person's actually loading a machine or doing those steps. So that need for data is driving increased utilization of automation on most manufacturing processes, and that's not going away because people's need for data and what they realize they can do with that data once they have it is going to continue at an exponential rate. So that's not moving away. Also, there's some things you just can't do anymore by yourself, humans. When you talk about the ultra precision, ultra high precision, you talk about nano level, micro level, you're not actually doing those things by hand. You've got to have automation doing that. And that's what's going to keep on going. They start talking about the nanotubes, graphene, some of the things that are going on at that level. Those things aren't going to be done by us. It's going to be done by automation helping us do those things. And then just overall plant efficiency and productivity. Things you're doing if you're moving large weights or if you're handling repetitive processes in painting or welding, the obvious things that you've gone to automation in the past. Those are driving automation and going to make automation be a substantial part of what manufacturing technology is for quite some time. Then, of course, we always get the knuckleheads somewhere that say, well, gee, all that automation is displacing jobs, going to create all tons of unemployment. That's the worst thing ever, this automation. You're killing the economy. If a knucklehead tells you that, you definitely want to walk the other way. Don't know what they're talking about. Here's information taking a look at 6 major countries. Red line is their implementation of robotics. Blue line is their unemployment level. Okay, except in the case of Japan, everybody's got increasing utilization of robotics. Note their unemployment. Okay? Any economy is going to be doing better when they can be the most productive and take over more global market share. So if you think by just putting more people, and Alan said this in his presentation, if you think the solution is just looking at unemployment and that's the measure of whether or not you're effective, it really is not. In our case, you really don't need to worry about adding more automation being the thing that's going to cause the problems that we have with displacing workers. It's going to be your opportunity to increase that. And you can see that here. This is from ASME information. They're talking about every one robot that you bring online, essentially you're creating 5 jobs. 5 jobs you created. Because think about all the ancillary things that go along with having a robot in your facility. You know, the programming of it, development end effector for it, all the things that are happening with the overall integration and utilization of a robot at a higher level that need to be taken care of. Since 2011, they're saying 4 to 6 million jobs have been created because of the robots that have been implemented. And they look forward another 8 years and say, we see that being another 1.5 to 3.5 more million jobs being created. Overall, as an industry, 8% growth. Okay? Those are some pretty good numbers that are happening for this industry. It's already a $5 billion industry. Fanuc robotic guys are going, yeah, I'm loving this stuff, loving this stuff. This is where we want to be. So, I mean, it's going to be a key part of what we have going forward. And as we talked about from a displacement standpoint, the people are being displaced. They're being put into other places. They're not being replaced, okay? It's not like the job goes away. They're going on to do other things, which is absolutely positively what we need them to do. So automation impact's a big one. Another thing that continues to drive that, of course, the cost of all these things continue to go down. The cost of all the devices, the sensors, robots, all is going down. The numbers of sensors and robots, the different types of them, continues to increase, as well as the reliability. I was in the automation game in the 80s. We could do some super cool stuff. The problem was the whole connectivity, the type of reliability for all the different types of components we had to have, always made it an issue. It was super cool when you put it out there, but keeping it up and running was really difficult. I got to tell you today, this stuff is a lot more bulletproof. There's a lot less components, and more things have been integrated into singular components and chips. At the end of the day, this stuff is substantially more reliable. As it's more reliable, more people want it in their plants and facilities. The other thing to take a look at is kind of this confluence you have going on. It used to be the only people that were really doing automation were the systems integrators, which I kind of liked when I was a systems integrator. But the fact of the matter is, everybody's kind of playing in the game now. So the OEMs are getting into putting their own automation onto their machines, okay? Distributors are getting in the game going, I want to be adding value add. I know what the customer wants. I'm closest to the customer. I want to add value in the product. So distributors are becoming integrators and automation people. So you got the regular integrators that are doing it for a living. You've got distributors that are adding value and being close to the customer doing it. And you have the OEMs. And the OEMs not just talking about machine tools here. I'm talking manufacturing technology. This is happening when you look at metrology equipment. You know, metrology guys are figuring out they want to have their process automated. It's happening in all levels of it. So even the guys that are doing the additive equipment, you'll see the integration of automation happening at all levels of the OEM level. So everybody's playing the automation game. You got to figure out where is your opportunity in that. It's not going to go away. Everybody's playing in it. So once again, how do we help? Where can we give you some support in this area? Well, if you want to find out all the people that are doing something at any level within the automation game, and take a look at the new buyer's guide that just came out. That's the cover of it there on the left-hand side. That's all the information that you're going to want. Anybody you want to know that's in the business, doing any part of what's in this business, go take a look at that. You'll find them there. Do what you're doing now. I mean, you come to this event, another good event where we've got 800-900 people attending the MFG meeting. You want to get together with who's doing what. What are you using? What do you want? How did you do it? Can I collaborate and work with you? Same thing with the CAST meeting. You want to just get with a group of people that are just talking automation all the time and looking at how they solve that and how they can collaborate. Custom Automated Systems Group. And once again, MT Insight. You get information from USMTO, Sell Your Product, MT Prospects. All information you can find who's doing what in automation. How can you pair, partner, and utilize information that's out there and actually grow your business from an automation standpoint. Either figure out how you're going to play in it or how to take advantage of it. And those are a lot of great resources to be able to find that information. Okay, so this one's kind of the tougher one. Big data. You know, what the heck is big data? Well, everybody's got some different definition for what they think it is. And we're going to just kind of throw into a big ball out here. So just walk through each of these pieces. So collectively, we're just saying all this kind of rolls together to be kind of the umbrella that people are calling big data. So it starts with, you got to collect this stuff. So on the collection side, it's all the machines, the sensors, the actuators, all the different devices that are actually creating the data. And that's happening more than ever. MT Connect has been one of those things to help that happen. You have to have open standards helping you get all this stuff connected and have an easy way of getting data transferred. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. It's really been instrumental in making that happen efficiently. So you've got lots of places that are just creating all kinds of data. But the next is, you know, where does it go? What do you do with that? So now fold in the next piece, the Internet of Things. Internet of Things, it's been around for a while, but most recently it's become popularized because GE has come out with, you know, it's the industrial internet. Okay, so out there coining industrial internet, it's the same thing that the people have been talking about for 10 or 15 years. It's really just having a bunch of different devices that are connected to an internet so that you can actually communicate to remote devices, get information out to actually collect information and or send direction back to those remote devices. That's the Internet of Things. So that's allowing all these isolated things that are creating data to be connected in some kind of system so the information can go somewhere. Next thing is, where's the somewhere? Well, the somewhere is this mysterious thing, the cloud. Cloud just being all kinds of servers that are available, core processing, that they can actually collect and utilize in the cloud. So you got this really big space now to go dump all that data. So that works out great, and it also gives you the processing power that you need so you can do something with that data. That's only interesting until you can actually bring it over and get to the analytics side. So a lot of the business intelligence platforms are actually where the cool analytics are taking place, so you can actually make sense of all the data you just brought in and stored and give you the processing power to do really cool things with it. So some combination of pulling all that together keeps getting this umbrella term big data. We're kind of calling that process of things where the cool activity is happening in the big data arena. And I want to walk through maybe a couple examples a little bit of where that would be kind of relevant and kind of give you an idea of, does this really look like it might be something that's going to be continuing for a while. So again, big data, you want to look at ASME again one more time, putting a reference on what that would be. 40 trillion, I had to look that up, what's 12 zeros? 40 trillion gigabytes, okay? That's what they're thinking the amount of data by 2020. I guess you'd call that big data. Relative to our debt, though, 2.5 times our $17 trillion debt kind of puts things in perspective. Which is a big number? I think they're both big numbers. A lot of jobs are going to get created from this big data industry. There's a lot of opportunity there. $16 billion. I mean, it's something you have to consider, and how does that mix in with what you're doing every day? Drop down to the sensor side of that and say, okay, got that going up there in big data. What's happening in the sensor side of things? You got to get that data's got to get fed from somewhere. Where's it getting fed from? Sensors, $14–15 billion industry, going up at 6% a year. Pretty impressive. You want to read some cool stuff about what's going on with sensors. There's a guy named Mickey McManus. He runs Maya Design, M-A-Y-A. Mickey McManus. Mickey McManus wrote a book called Trillions. Easy to remember, right? Remember national debt? Remember that, Trillions. He talks about the ubiquitous nature of sensors and the fact that they're becoming so inexpensive that they're going to be in everything, and what that does in driving data and where the possibilities are from that. Really interesting book. And you actually can see even more of that as you start looking at the technology that's coming out and how the new technologies that are coming out might also further impact what's happening with sensors and what you could do with it with your business. I told somebody I'm really getting to be a bit of a stiff when I was on the airplane reading MIT Review on the way to the conference here. I got to admit, I wasn't reading MIT Review a few years ago, but I read it now. One of the cool things that was in there were some of the new developments that they're coming out with for additive manufacturing. So separate sideways commercial for a second. Love additive manufacturing. Additive manufacturing is super cool. If you think additive manufacturing is going to take away 50% of your business in the next 5 to 10 years, don't worry, it's not. It's really cool stuff. It's definitely going to impact our industry. It's vital to what we're doing, but it's going to have incremental impacts. But where it's really going to have super neat impacts are the kind of things they're developing at MIT. They've developed inks, 2 different types of inks, a cathode ink, an anode ink. And they've developed a way at the 10 micron level to print miniature batteries. So you use an additive machine. That's the ink instead of the plastics or other resins. And you actually print a lithium-ion battery, which is 10 microns by 10 microns. Now think about what you can do if that's your power source. You've got a 10 micron by 10 micron battery that you can then go put on a really small sensor that you can then go put anywhere on your equipment that has the power to send a signal to give you information that you can use, so that Internet of Things that's going to be going into the cloud where you can process it, drop into your analytics package so that you can actually look at super cool information on things that you might have delivered anywhere in the world or in any part of your plant on a ready moment basis every day, every minute. We're talking about these things putting out information at millisecond scan rates, so imagine the amount of data that we're talking about. So it's super cool stuff coming up. And it's kind of things that are going to be driving this industry as we go forward. So really interesting stuff to follow. But how is it practical, the kind of stuff we're doing? So I'm going to give you 2 examples. I'm going to break one into looking at this big data from the standpoint of sales for our industry, and I'm going to take you into a quick look at from a manufacturing standpoint. So from a sales standpoint, this is driven from MT. So it's MT Insights Territory Wizard. So this is kind of cool. What you're looking at are the big circles are actually this is real data, by the way, from people in our industry. This is something we did for a member. We've masked it and mixed a bunch of data together in this particular one. But it shows the actual size of a market for a particular set of type of machines. Big green circles are a big amount of volume in that place, and green means you've got a large percent of the market share. Big red circle means it's a big market area, but you have very little of the market share. And as the hues change, you either have more or less market share. So in that Los Angeles area, this particular case, that person, large market, they've got a lot of market share. Okay, so it's just the kind of stuff, information you can start to pull together. And imagine the amount of data when you're talking county by county, zip code by zip code, all the different type of machines that we actually know, broken up by every single person that's in our industry, distributor, OEM, sales territory, all mixed and jumbled any way you want. What good is it? What would you use it for? Well, we had a particular member that was kind of saying, what would be good for me is I'm taking over a new area. I got a bunch of sales guys out there, and I'm trying to figure out if I have their market set up properly. Are the right guys in the right areas? Do I have them doing too much or too little? You know, if I start to just take a look at spreadsheets and go, I got Bob, I got Joe, I got Steve, I got Susan, they're doing these things in these areas, and then go back to the spreadsheet. What were the sales for the last 4 or 5 years? What were the sales by horizontals? What were the sales by verticals, multi-spindles? And do those each independently. It would take you weeks and weeks and weeks to keep doing iterative analysis of that. These breakdowns, the little squares that hopefully you can see up there, those are different counties. Different colors are the 4 different salespeople this person had. Down at the bottom were actually the types of machine tools they chose off the checklist as of sales through August 2013, so their sales from January through August, in those particular types of machines, and what their market share were for each thing that they actually picked. And they wanted to know, did I have them set up right? Did I have somebody who was my best salesperson banging it out, but in a territory that essentially wasn't that big, or we already controlled all of that market share? Did I want to give them more, but if I gave them more, how much more would that be? If I had somebody that was really hitting it out of the park, but they had the smallest amount of market, shouldn't I give my best guy a little bit more market? So you can start to take a look at what all those things might be. So what they walked through and said, okay, let's just start taking different things. I'll just start changing the actual counties and districts that I have them in and see what the impact is on where the market share is and the amount of equipment sold in those. So until I can get it right as to what combination should I do and align with which of my sales guys. And the interesting thing about this as they looked at it was it helped them figure out really quickly taking enormous amounts of data and quickly showing them what would be the most effective way to set up their sales territories. And you don't need to do it for sales. It could be a very interesting process to go through for service. If you want to look at, from a service standpoint, where should I put my service personnel? Where might I want to have, a lot of spare parts? Where do I have a lot of machines going in? Where are my most recent? Where are my older machines that I put out there 4 or 5 years ago? So where do you get the most sales to service calls? You can start taking a look at any of that information and continue to take the iterative process and walk through. It's very hard to do the old way we used to do it. Even if you had straight USMTO information and tried to figure out how you would break that down, it was very time consuming. You put this into a business analytics piece of software like MT Insight, and all of a sudden the ability to take all that data and use the cloud and the core processing that's out there in the cloud, you can do amazing things in a matter of seconds. So that's very neat. But also you want to go from a manufacturing standpoint, how would I do it in manufacturing? So that was neat for a sales thing, that's great, but there's a company out there, Itemco, who is in Indiana, and they are doing unbelievable things in manufacturing, specifically with MT Connect. They're one of the early pioneers figuring out that MT Connect was really going to be a solution for them to take all the stuff that they had in their factory and start collecting data. And they knew if they could be the best at collecting data, they would be the most efficient producers of what they were producing. And so they went hell-bent for leather to figure out how to do that. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to show you just a quick 2-minute video of what these guys are doing. This is Joel Neidig, who has been doing some phenomenal things. He decided to figure out if I got all this capability with MT Connect, and I'm connecting all these machines on my factory floor, and I got some Google Glass, and I tied it in my ERP, my MRP, my CAD system, what we're doing for simulation, and what's happening in the factory, would that be neat? And this is what he found.
Okay, Glass. That was awesome.
Okay. These guys are doing phenomenal things. That is cool. If you don't think that's cool, you're definitely in the wrong business. That's cool. These guys are essentially taking 30 different types of machines, 200 different machines altogether, over multiple different locations, tying them in using an open source code, basically MT-Connect, so they had an easy way to connect a USB type of connection so that they connect all the information. And then he's actually using that information. He goes through his plant with his Google Glass so that he can have information from all his systems while he's walking around. He's created his own apps. So you can go, if you want to go on, check out his apps. He's got a bunch of apps he's created so you can do a remote diagnostics, so you can look at the equipment. These guys are doing super neat things. That's the world that we're going into. And it's not like somebody might do this someday, like this might be interesting to have take place. He's doing it right now. That's his stuff. That's what he's working on. That is the creation of enormous amounts of data, helping somebody drive their business better, not for the just sake of fun of having data. These guys are doing super cool things with that. So, again, you want to leverage that. What do you do? Where do you go? MT-Connect Institute's a great place to start. There's a bunch of people in the room that are actively using MT-Connect. It's really becoming more and more popular. DoD is starting to drive it in most of the things that they do. NIST is actually working with MT-Connect Institute on a number of programs. A really interesting one that NIST is working on and asked the Institute to get involved with is ROS. ROS, R-O-S, Robotic Operating System, created by a guy at Stanford who wanted to find an easier way to program robotics, becoming basically the go-to standard for how to have an open source code way of programming robots. NIST is actually tying MT-Connect together with ROS so you can seamlessly have those things working together. A lot of momentum happening in that area. Also, NNMI, the National Network of Manufacturing Institutes. The most recent ones that are getting started right now are DMDI. You can tell you've been watching for a while. You just throw a bunch of acronyms. They all sound good at the end of the day. That's the Design Manufacturing, DMDI, Digital Manufacturing Design Institutes. And those are essentially going to be 5 different proposals that are being reviewed between now and the end of the year. In each one of those, in the spec that the government wrote for those proposals, included the need for anyone that wanted to win that bid to have an open source standard for collecting manufacturing data like MT-Connect. First time, only time, a specific actual application or product was mentioned and a request for bid for those programs. People know that's going to be the standard that they need to work on. You see it in a lot of places. Get involved with one of those DMDIs when they get started. The award's going to happen this December, and it's a good place to get involved with what's happening in the technology. Then, of course, again, with MT-Insight. MT-Insight's good for multiple ways of you taking a look at the information that's out there and crunching it. If you haven't had a chance to go see what it's about, there's people right out there that can show you what it is. It's something that you can use as an AMT member to really grab all kinds of information. We get information from all over the world, from sources that we buy, from punching together our survey information. There's lots of ways that you can leverage this to drive your business. So those are some of the cool things that are going on relative to those 3 areas. And hopefully I did an okay job of stalling until we get to Steve just a little bit later so he can give you the next piece of economic information. But with that, thank you very much. You get a break right after this, which is nice because you're probably tired of hearing people talk. But I really appreciate everybody being here, and I hope you enjoy the rest of today's program. Thank you.